This is Ukrainian bell carol for viola. So I'm going to talk through a couple of spots or points before I play for you. What I want to point out first is just all of the dynamic changes. So anytime you have a piano, anytime you have a mezzo piano, anytime you have a decrescendo to get softer, make sure you are moving your bow closer towards the fingerboard, that you're using lighter weight, and that you're staying closer towards the middle, maybe even the upper half, just not being close to the frog. As you have crescendos, we're getting louder, or you have a mezzo forte, especially fortes and fortissimos, you're moving closer towards the bridge. We're adding weight onto our bow, and we are maybe moving closer towards the lower part of our bow or even near our frog. For violas, when you're on your C string especially, you're going to want to use a little more weight and a little less bow all the time so that the note comes out clearly. That string is thicker, so you just got to press in a little bit more, especially if it's a forte or fortissimo. One spot I do want to point out is between 29 and 33, and then you have that same spot repeated between 61 and 65. So this is our spot where we have that low 1. So in measure 29, we're going to play a second finger for the B. When we go over to the D string, we're going to play a low 1 and then slide it up to the tape. I know I don't have tapes right now, so I need you to imagine how it is on yours. Low 1 behind the tape, slides up onto the tape for the E. That needs to happen in one bow, and it has to happen quickly because those are just eighth notes. So a good way to practice this is just practicing sliding from the D sharp, the low 1, up to the E. In one bow. So your fingers get used to that movement. Then you need to put it into the measure in measure 29, making sure you're getting the counting. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. So that's our movement from the low 1. We also have to watch our high 3 for our C sharp. That happens in measure 22 and also in measure 56. So on our G string, when we're playing the second finger for the B, the next note is not a C on the tape, it's a C sharp. So you have to slide your finger a little bit higher. So it should be between your third and your fourth tapes. Also, just make sure anytime you have dotted half notes throughout here, you are adding a tiny accent. If you need to, you can mark it in your part so that we do sound like bell tones, and so we are hearing every single start of those measures very clearly. I'm going to play through your piece at quarter note equals 92 on the metronome. One, two, three. Now get your bow set while you're counting. 1, 2, 3. sorry, somewhere between measure 27 and 29. My brain reverted to violin and I started playing on the wrong string, but I did correct it when I played in that same section over in like measure 61. One last thing I did want to point out, at measure 41, your notes are a little bit different than violin 3 in the way that you play them. So you're always going to play a fourth finger instead of an open D. Otherwise, you're going to be crossing strings every other note. It's going to be really difficult to keep up. But when you play that fourth finger, you have to play a high 3. So your third finger is going to be right next to your fourth, and then there'll be a space for your second finger. So measure 41. 4, high 3, 2, and it just keeps repeating. In measure 37 up through 40, you'll also see those notes that are tied together. Instead of them all being in one bow, because that's a lot of beats to hold in one bow, you see the parentheses with the up bow in it. That means that just somewhere during that long held note, you would change your bow to an up bow. It doesn't have to be exactly where it's marked. It can be before. It can also be after. Just make sure at some point during that long note, you're changing your bow, and then the same thing happens at measure 73.